Let's rewind to 2019 when Giannis Antetokounmpo was named the NBA MVP for the first time. The FIBA World Cup happened 3 months after this nomination, and despite huge expectations for Greece, they didn't even qualify for the quarterfinals with Giannis struggling to carry the team on his shoulders. Teams barricaded the paint with players in transition, FIBA rules and smaller court size didn't help as well, and MVP's shot wasn't scary to the opponents at all. EuroBasket 2022 is right around the corner, and in this video we will examine Giannis' struggles in the last FIBA tournament and try to predict if the same will happen this September.
Doncic gets it inside, up and in, huge rejection by Giannis!
To be exactly clear, struggling for the Greek Freak has a different meaning than to others. He was still averaging almost 15 points per game in 25 minutes of action, dunking in transition or converting on tough baskets inside the area. He would also add 9 rebounds and 2 assists, but had more turnovers than dimes and finished only 25th in scoring. It's not the numbers someone would expect from the new NBA MVP. Besides that, we simply didn't see the dominance he showed on NBA courts, impacting the game in multiple ways offensively and defensively. Antetokounmpo's transition scoring is the first thing that comes up on the scouting report before playing Greece or the Bucks. At the FIBA World Cup, opponents were super focused on building walls of 3, 4, and even 5 people against him, thus minimizing the biggest strength that Giannis has. He loves pushing the pace after defensive rebounds, but teams were simply closing all driving gaps early at the cost of leaving his Greek teammates open. Whenever he would still find a way to get into the paint, they would swarm around Giannis immediately, forcing tough shots or turnovers. Forward had a tough time making the right decision when help came. He was too confident about his physical force and the ability to absorb the contact and still finish the play. Giannis would often choose trying to finish on his own rather than kicking it out for an open teammate, and that resulted in a lot of turnovers and offensive fouls. Some of these were questionable, but it doesn't change the fact that his decision-making in transition has to improve this September. Forcing the issue was the main catalyst for a negative assist-to-turnover ratio, and in a couple of games limited his playing time as well. Offensively, Antetokounmpo's game revolves around fast breaks, isolation, and post-ups. Now on those, I would love to see him seal his opponent closer to the rim more often like he did here against Chris Middleton. In the next clip, Marcus Smart does an excellent job not allowing that, forcing a catch further away from the basket. USA immediately can help off even one pass away, but his teammates weren't able to punish that at a high rate. After seeing them miss, he started to again call his own number more, and it led to the same trap that we saw in transition. The Greek Freak loves the spin move, but it's also the perfect moment to catch Giannis off guard. He spins twice, gets surrounded by 3 players before he can even kick the ball out, and it's too late for his teammates to get an open shot off. Brazil even put 20 cm smaller Garcia on Giannis for a couple of possessions, and the lack of potent jump shot from the mid-range allowed the Brazilian to win the duel twice in a row. Here he could simply rise over the guard after the spin, yet kicks out the ball to a poor 3-point shooter Kalades, who bricks it. Giannis lived on rim shots at this tournament, scoring only 4 times further away than 4 meters from the basket in 5 games. He shot only 14 times and didn't look confident at all. In face-up situations or high post catches, opponents were inviting the Greek to shoot, giving him a good meter of space. Look at Czech Republic building the wall and Baldwin barely contesting this 3-point attempt by Antetokounmpo. This next play against the USA was the best example of why Greece didn't have success at the World Cup. It was too easy for the opponents to close the paint for Giannis. There is no movement from others, and Giannis bricks the pull-up once again. The Greek offense looks static, with too much depending on his individual efforts without much prior movements or decoy plays, which would have given some kind of advantage before he received the ball. I didn't notice any patterns of how they tried to involve him offensively. It was too much chaos, and naturally it was hard for the others to adapt as well. EuroLeague stars like Suliauskas often seemed out of place, which is the last thing you would expect from this great floor general. As a result of the lack of ideas, Antetokounmpo himself tried to solve the things alone a bit too much, and I expect to see more creativity involving one of the best players in the world offensively. especially with one of the Bucks' assistant coaches coming to help over Dimitris Itoudis. In recent years, the Bucks experimented what the best way of using the Greek Freak is, and the results speak for themselves.
Giannis sets the screen for Chris, and he gets it down to his guy. Oh, he flies! He flies! Oh, man.
Obviously, around him, you need as many shooters as you can have, and that was not the case for the national team 4 years ago. Some teams like Czech Republic played zone for big chunks of the game, and Greece looked completely clueless of how to attack it. Look at these free possessions and tell me if that looks like an organized attack against a 2-free zone defense. Little to no movement from the players, and if so, without an idea of how to create an overload in some part of the court, which is probably the first objective against the zone defense. Seeing this and walls that close the paint in transition and on isolations made Giannis settle for shots he wasn't comfortable taking or forced him to pass out the ball. He averaged only 9.2 field goal attempts per game, which was 67th result in the tournament. 66 players took more shots than one of the best players in the world. That's an insane stat. Now, will this year we'll see the same story once again? In short, I believe we will witness a much harder to guard version of Giannis. Yes, he is still a paint-dominant player, with rim shots being a strong #1 offensive option. But just like over the years, he completely changed his body shape. In the last 3 years, he developed an outside shot. Most importantly, he doesn't bother to fire from outside the paint anymore.
With every chance you give him, Giannis, the turnaround. That's difficult to defend. He's so tall.
To support this, I used his field goal shot chart data from Instat. While posting up in the 2019 NBA season, only 51 shots came not around the rim. Last year, this number went up to 121 with less games played. Together with the total attempts, the percentage of these shots also rose from a horrible 29% 3 years ago to an average 38 in 2022. The shooting mechanics on these turnaround jumpers look smooth, and the opponents can't do anything about it since the release point is ridiculously high. None of these tries went in 3 years ago, and if Giannis can get the confidence from the get-go, it will be a big problem for the opponents of Greece. The same observation can be made in the numbers on isolations as well. In the 2019 NBA season, Giannis had 114 attempts outside the rim in one-on-one situations. Last year, he had 213. The overall accuracy didn't rise as it did on post-ups, but there were 2 spots where Antetokounmpo was solid. Left elbow, where he shot 48% from mid-range, and left wing, where he was at 35% from free.
That's a good-looking jumper right there.
And where he can make them.
He didn't shoot that much because he still plays to his strengths, but the same applies to the opponents who have to risk giving him these pull-up jumpers, because if they come closer, he's going to drive by and dunk it on their face. Giannis likes to take his time getting into the rhythm with the dribble, but has no problem getting the shot off the way he wants, since the opponents are reluctant to make an extra step. A reliable outside shot would make Giannis practically unstoppable, and seeing the progress throughout the years, I believe he will fare much better than 3 years ago. To finish off, there are other ways I would love to see Greece exploit him more often to make their game even less predictable. This isolation into a quick pick and roll looked superb in the World Cup, but it was most definitely an improvisation and not a tactical thing. If Giannis's man gives him space and the defender one pass away is also far away from his player, that gives the playmaker a huge advantage, and a good screen can cause big trouble for the opponents.
Played in an NBA Finals, trying to get to the conference finals. First is Giannis with the flush and the foul.
I also enjoyed the guard faking to come take a handoff from Antetokounmpo and instead setting a screen for him, allowing Giannis to attack downhill and do it against a much smaller defender. Milwaukee had it in their playbook this year with an extra flair to it. Connaughton or Jrue Holiday would flip the side of the screen at the last moment, making it super difficult for the primary defender to stay on Giannis and opening up driving lanes almost every time. Obviously, this was the Lakers defense you saw right here, but I can see this play giving dunks for Giannis from time to time, even in the EuroBasket.
Once again will jackhammer it home.
Overall, Greece fans should be excited about this tournament since their best player has improved significantly over the last 3 years, and with Dimitris Itoudis steering the wheel, you can expect Giannis to be used in the best way possible. What do you guys think? Can Greece contend for the gold this year? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next video.